Greetings everyone, my name is Greg. In this video I am going to talk about some inconsistencies that are present in Christianity and Islam regarding the Allah versus Iblis or God versus Satan dynamic, and some inconsistencies in the stories that are told and things that have become part of our culture, as well as something that is not specifically mentioned, but people seem to have the idea that it was present. But I'll get into that. First things first. When I was 18, I bought my first gargoyle, and it was something that my dad had flipped out when I came home with a gargoyle. And he tried. Now, bear in mind, when I was 18, I was still a Christian. I had not walked away from the religion that I was born into and raised with and all that shit. And I was always fond of the gargoyle type of imagery. It was just something that it appealed to me. That I don't know why, it was just something, especially when I found out the aspect of their history and what the mythology behind them is. But when I brought home my first gargoyle, my dad flipped out. And he acted like they were satanic and all that shit. And I had looked at him and I said, if they're so satanic, why are they mounted on churches over in Europe? He shut up about the subject for life. He has never mentioned to me since about gargoyles. He won't even touch the subject because he knows pretty much I know more about the subject than he does. And that is something that for most Christians, they aren't that honest. That if they don't have the evidence, or even if you prove them wrong, they'll lie and make shit up to try and validate their position. The thing is, I've also been attracted to skulls and so forth, and the darker, more horror type of imagery has always appealed to me more than the nice, sweet, cuddly, cherub type of bullshit. The thing is, there's a quote that I want to mention because one of my subscribers had mentioned this on my last video, and I want to give him credit for this. Jerry, I agree with you 100%. And now I'm quoting him. One of the things which has always puzzled me is the mindset that says the devil will torture you for your sins. He is where he is because of his rebellious, bad attitude. He and his were essentially kicked out after a huge battle, right? So wouldn't the rebellious, lost soul be congratulated by the Dark One for doing his bidding? If someone kicked me out of a great life, then someone transgressed against them, they're on my side. They're on a side of me that I would say good one. Just human thinking. But the idea of a powerful evil being punishing me for doing what he would do himself is sort of mind twisting. And I fully agree with that. And they went on to say, I used to have a book written by a minister who parsed Revelation verse by verse, a hyperactive dog shredding it. And he cited an example where you are to picture the worst dirtbag neighbors ever. In hell, you will be surrounded by these types forever. That got me thinking. If I am being punished for my shortcomings by being with these people who are the worst, who are worse than I am, why is their punishment more lenient by having me as their neighbor? People who come up with this stuff really don't think these things through. And I fully agree with him. They don't stop and think about what they're really saying. And the picture that I'm showing you, I had started watching Lucifer shortly after it aired, and I wasn't sure about it at first just because the base premise is something that I have so many problems with because it is steeped in the bullshit narrative of Christianity. However, it is a TV series that I have found I'm very fond of. The character of Lucifer is one that I can actually, to use the term, identify with and see it as, in a sense, a good character. It is not the way a Christian would depict it. Because the idea of the God is, in my view, and a lot of ways in the TV series, the God is pretty much regarded as an asshole. And it is something that Lucifer his intent is to punish those that are doing things that are fucked up. The thing is, the whole narrative behind the Christian bullshit, it simply makes no sense. The aspect of why a demon and so forth, why somebody that would basically side with, to use the aspect of a Lucifer type, that if the character of Lucifer, the devil type of, that fictional type of character, if it could look like a well-groomed, normal person, why the fuck would those that are its followers or servants look grotesque and hideous? This makes no sense. By the same token, why do we have, with things like The Exorcist, the idea of possession, why the hell, if there would be, and this is my big problem with the whole possession type of narrative, if there would be some kind of demonic force or whatever, or ghost or apparition or whatnot that would inhabit somebody's body, why, when it would communicate, would it be, blah, blah, I hate you, I'm gonna kill you, blah? That makes no fucking sense. Who does it think it's going to trick? Or the aspect of looking like they're crazed and bloodthirsty and all of that. These type of things, like I mentioned in another video, this would not trick anybody. So why the fuck, if these characters, or because it's not just characters for the jackass religious people that buy into this bullshit, to them, this shit is supposedly real. Well, if this is really what's going on, why do we see more intelligent behavior from human serial killers like Ted Bundy that can look like a decent, normal, even to use the term, a more Lucifer in storyline type of look? Someone that can look like they are well-groomed, presentable. Someone like that would have a far better chance or opportunity to deceive people than coming up to them and looking at them like that. You wouldn't trick anyone. This just, it makes no fuck sense. And why, if you're going to be in a hell type of shit, why would this Satan or whatnot punish you for doing what it would go along with in the first place? These things just don't add up. It does not. This is why I can't look at it as anything but bad fiction. because the behaviors of the characters don't fit reality. Because if you have someone that is like the aspect of Charles Manson, he was fucking nuts. Those that went along with his insanity, he did not look at them as, I'm going to torture you. He liked them. He was nice to them. Why would you have some demon or Satan that is going to be torturing those that are on its side? I mean, that's talk about cutting off your nose to spite your face. It makes me wonder, who is this character supposedly serving? Because if it's punishing those that are the same as itself, then it's really just an agent of the God doing the will of this bastard God. The other aspect with this that I want to get into is the story of, and yes, I'm going to the Tree of Knowledge and the Tree of Life type of shit, but before I get into that, I want to address this aspect of what is not mentioned. And one of the things, another one of my subscribers had asked about, didn't God say that you can eat anything in the garden but that one tree? And I had said to her, it depends on what part you read. If you read Genesis 1 verse 28, that is right after verse 29. In verse 27, the God created them male and female, created he him type of shit. That male and female were made together, and in what I've heard is Jewish mysticism, that was Adam and Lilith. But Lilith would not be submissive to Adam type of thing. Yeah, basically Lilith was the first feminist. But in Genesis 1 verse 29, it is written, and God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat or for food. Every tree. Not every tree but one. Every tree. There is no distinction. There is no, you can have all of them but this one. There's none of that in Genesis 1 verse 29. It is only when you get into Genesis chapter 2 verse 16 and 17 that the Lord God commanded them, saying, every tree of the garden thou mayest eat freely. And then verse 17, he throws a but in. But the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not touch it, or thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. There are problems with this. Not the least of which being, if they do not have the knowledge of good, if they would have the knowledge of good and evil to be able to make a choice, there would be no point in them eating from that tree, because they would already have that knowledge. If they wouldn't have the knowledge of what good and evil are, it would be impossible for them to make a choice between two trees. But the big problem is they're not being told. At no point in this does the God say you have to make a choice between one of these two trees. It is not saying choose between the tree of life or the tree of knowledge. That is simply not in the story. That is yet another aspect where Christians want to make up and assert what is not there. You cannot say that this God gave people free will if the God was making the knowledge forbidden. And that's where this is one aspect of the tree of knowledge, that in that tree shape, it had that whoever made that put in words that go along the aspects of knowledge. One of the things I notice, in a sense, right off, my eyes kind of gravitate to it, are facts over at the left side. That is vital. And right, in a sense, right across, right, moving to the right, doctrine. But there's also development, wisdom, education, awareness. And down at the bottom, I don't know if you can read it, but it says consciousness. Think about that, Christians. Consciousness. To use the term self-awareness. Without the, if you, they would, to use the analogy of this tree of life versus tree of knowledge, which would you choose? The aspect of you have two trees before you. If you eat from the one, you will be able to have free will. You'll be able to make your own choices, but you're going to be mortal. The other one, if you eat from that one, you will be immortal, but you will not know good from evil. You will not have self-awareness. You will not have the ability to make your own choices, but you're going to live forever. Which one would you choose? Would you choose to live forever as a mindless puppet? Something that is incapable of making your own choices. And that, I think, is the ultimate, in a sense, insult. Because one of the things, there is the, to use the term, the Kabbalistic tree of life that gets into sacred geometry, and it's things that I find shapes like that and so forth interesting. I don't know, I'll have to look into that more, but that whole dynamic is not Christian in nature. That would be way more along the lines of Judaism. But I'm going to just focus on this aspect. And I want you to look at that image and really look at it. Because that is it's an optical illusion type of thing. Yes, it is a tree. But what you may or may not have already noticed, that is also the image of the brain. And that is what I think a lot of Christians, what religious people are that buy into this shit are really lacking. They're showing that they have shut off their brain. They're not thinking. They're not critically analyzing what is right fucking in front of them. A lot of them want to act like, well, that's your interpretation. When I am reading the fucking words on the page as the story fucking has it, and I'm seeing one of, this is in the story, okay, this is in the story, this is what's being said, I'm following the subject and object and storyline, shitty as it is for this, how can you say that I'm interpreting something when all I'm doing is looking at what is in the goddamn story? I had one person ask if I believed the Jews were in Egypt and so forth, that they didn't exist until whatnot, and I was like, even if you go with the aspect of saying that it was Israelites, not Jews, that the term Jews didn't come about and so forth, I was like, then you're getting into a semantics argument. But in the aspect of, am I saying, like, do I literally believe Jews were ever in Egypt or that the Exodus happened or any of that shit? No. But in many ways, I look at it and it's their story. Much like I would with the aspect of, do I believe that there was a little boy that came here on and pretty much was in a egg or a ship of some kind and crashed, and old people found him and he lifted up a car? No, I don't believe that actually happened. But it's Superman. I like this. I find the story entertaining. So I look at it and it's their story. However, I can also say, you know what, there are things that just, if you want to say, do I believe that those things are factual? No, I don't. Point blank, no, I don't. However, to try and get into an argument of when, like, that at one point in time they would have been termed Israelites, not Jews, that's a semantics argument. You're still talking about the same people. You're just talking about a different word that was attributed to them at a different time. Who fucking cares? You could even use the term today of Israelites or conversely Jews. It's still the same group of people that you're talking about. But these are things that I really find, to use the term, troublesome with religion, and things that are utterly inconsistent with what we're told. Because the aspect of choosing between two things that you don't know what either one is, you can't do it. And I also contend. And now, it would not, and to use the term, it wouldn't be a fully accurate test for me to say now, looking at the situation from the vantage point that I have of, would I choose, in a sense, knowledge and being mortal versus ignorance and being immortal, given that I wouldn't be able to make an intellectual and analytical analysis of the full breadth of what both choices would be offering, the benefits and the limitations, and be able to say which is better. But looking at it from the viewpoint I have, I would still say I would go with the tree of knowledge over that of the tree of life any day, without hesitation. Because even if you only live 100 years at most, with free will and the ability to make up your own mind and have choices and so forth that are your own, that is far better than an eternity of, I don't know anything. What should I think? What should I do? I don't want to live like that. That's not living. That's existing. To just be ignorant of any of what's going on in life or in the universe, what is the fucking point of it? An existence of stupidity? I guess that's why I can't be religious. I can't abide stupidity. And they apparently look at stupidity as the ultimate goal to try and achieve. But feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Later, people.